Hey, Glenn, good to see you.
Nice to see you as well. How are you?
Well, I'm coming off of a pretty bad case of shingles, to be honest with you. So that's why you're
Oh,
not seeing my video. My
oh
eyes
man.
not looking so hot, so I didn't want to scare people off. Uh,
Oh, wow. Glad you're feeling better. Man.
yeah. Um, did you find that um uh layout that Shane sent out for the phone helpful?
Which one was that? Let me see.
The phone script?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. The one from Mary and Shane. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
excellent. Yeah, thank you.
One thing, and I might even address it during this training, that I wanted to make sure that you were tracking is that there are certain things now that you have to do when you're doing telephonic sales. And that's why when you look through that document, there are some things in red. Those are the required things that you have to say when you're doing telephonic sales, which is one of the reasons why I really like to do in person because it
Yeah.
doesn't make it as robotic, if you will. The other thing you have to make sure is, and if you go through um, the portal that they did the training on a couple weeks ago, I believe that automatically records for you, but you do have to make sure that when you're doing the telephonic sales that you record the entire conversation. So
Yes.
just want to make sure you're tracking that as well.
Okay, great. So it might be helpful also to touch on accessing the portal through the phone, because I mean, I can get to Sunfire through the computer, but I'm not answering phones on my computer. You know what I mean?
Right, right. Gotcha. That might have to be a separate training. We're going to talk about some other stuff because I still believe on the Medicare sales, it's best done through face-to-face. So we're going to go through some of the ways that you can get to the face-to-face sales, but we'll slightly address that. And then I'll probably create another training specifically or I might even have Mary come back on and talk about the different ways to access that portal
Yeah,
and how the functionality will change.
right. Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
At this point, everything you guys are doing is excellent. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for that feedback.
Yeah.
All right, let's see who all's on here. Glenn, Claudia, Connie, Warner, Henry Lee, Seuss. All right. Guys, give us just a couple minutes. I'm waiting for Gabriel to come on. He'll go ahead and start us off today. And I apologize for not having video. I'm coming out of a case of shingles that attacked the whole left side of my face along with my eyes. So you won't be able to see me today, but you will be able to hear me. So we'll start in just a minute. Let me text Gabe, tell him to jump on, and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay. All right. Gabe, I see you jumping on with us here. Do you want to go ahead and start us off today? Looks like Gabe just dropped off. Gabe might be having some technical issues. But Gabe, if you're here and you can talk, why don't you start us off? And if not, then I'll go ahead and jump right into it.
Can you hear me okay?
There we go. We can hear you.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I'm having some technical difficulties today, so I apologize. Don't have a good connection. But anyways, before Carl gets started here with some marketing strategies, obviously you guys know that open enrollment started a few days back, October 15th. So excited to launch the first year of open enrollment with LBA. It's going to be a great year for everybody in the next few months. Want to remind everybody that we have $1,000 incentive for everybody that gets set up, appointed, finishes their AHIP certified and ready to sell. That's still open. Get with Shane or with Mary. They can give you more information on that. And even though we've already launched, I think you could still get your appointment process done if you haven't done so already. So I want to encourage everybody on the call to take advantage of that. It's free money and we're giving you leads so you can write business and make money. I mean, take advantage of that, guys. That's huge. So I want to remind everybody to take advantage of that. And then the last thing I want to go over is, remember, if you want to build a team or recruit or start your own Medicare agency, not only just write business, that's what I'm here for. Feel free to reach out. You should have my Calendly, and if you don't, I'll put it on the chat box here before I drop off. So that way you guys can schedule some appointments, and I'll be glad to talk to any Medicare agents that you would like to bring on your team so we can help them start building, get appointed, and get going. All right, guys, look forward to chatting with all of you. Carl, I'll turn it over to you. Have a good training, guys. Bye-bye.
Awesome. Thanks, Gabe. Okay, guys. So we're going to start out today talking about some marketing strategies. If you are new to Medicare, there are a lot of ways that you can go and start getting some clients in numbers, and I'm going to try to address that today. So keep in mind, this will be outside of your already existing clients. This is a way to try to go ahead and go out into the communities and get your numbers now. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and kick right off. We want to try always to not spend money, right? So first, I'm going to cover some no-cost activities that you can get into. And what I find is reaching out to the area managers. So what I mean by that is, with the different carriers, each county, each area for each plan is going to have an area manager. So for example, Humana, United, Aetna, all these companies will have their own manager that's responsible for taking care of agents that work both for the company and outside of the company that is bringing new clients in. Their job is to support you and to help you get leads and all kinds of things so that you can build business underneath their company. So the first thing that I recommend is, once you're appointed and you find out who your area manager is for United, Humana, Aetna, et cetera, reach out to them. Say, hey, my name is Glenn Hall and I want to jump right in. I need your help, right? Reach out to that area manager and let them know that you are excited and that you want to lean on them to get into the mix, right? So what they will have generally is, every carrier that I've ever worked with, they will have some kind of marketing strategy. Normally that comes in the form of seminars. You'll probably see newspaper ads or flyers. Sometimes it'll be on TV, where they're sponsoring seminars. They pay for the whole thing. A lot of times those are at restaurants, sometimes are at other venues, but a lot of times they like to do it at restaurants. I know on the East Coast, Golden Corral is a big one, and they'll fill that place up. There'll be 50 or 60 people inside of that one seminar. And so the point of those seminars, let's say it's hosted by Aetna or WellCare, they are going to have everything set up for you. They'll have a presentation that's on their laptop, and what they're going to have is 1, 2, maybe 3 agents that come in and host that seminar. All you have to do is go through the slides that's already set up, and at the end of that presentation, they're going to ask who wants to set up or sign up for this plan. And you might find that, out of those 50 or 60, that 40 people want to sign up because you guys did such a great job on that presentation that they think that product is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And you can run out of there with 15 or 20 applications immediately. So one of the first and most aggressive ways to start getting clients on the Medicare side is to work with those area managers and see if you can get into those kind of seminars. Most of the big companies already have those set up, and you can just run right in and start helping. As a brand new agent, they may give you a little pushback, but say, well, if I can't present, can I at least assist? And as long as you're the secondary agent or you can help in that presentation in some way, they may have you come there. So that's one of the things that I would definitely recommend. It's good because you'll also see a very compliant way to market a marketing event. So as you guys were going through your AHIP, you realize that there are educational events and there are marketing events. Those seminars will definitely be marketing events. So with that, just keep in mind the rules, with the gifting amounts, the food limitations and things that you can and can't do. And the sponsor or carrier will most likely have all that taken care of for you. Another thing that you can do are your own events. So you can create your own seminars, you can do your own talks and things like that. Talk about that a little bit more in that next section, but you can do your own events. And I'll just touch on that in the next section. The last thing you can do with the area managers is a lot of times they'll have venues that they have already secured for open enrollment. So for example, how many of you have walked into a Walmart and seen an agent sitting there, right? And they'll usually have a little backdrop. It'll talk about the plans that they have to offer, like a Humana, United, or what have you. Those are sponsored by the carriers. So there's two ways to get into those venues. You can go through the area managers, and a lot of times, if they don't have the agents already placed, or if there are gaps, you can start filling those gaps. And that's an awesome way, especially if you get into those large retail box places, that you can start talking to clients. Everybody knows, the seniors definitely know that it's the time of year for you to go ahead and start making those changes or reviewing the benefits for other plans. So just sitting inside of one of those big box retailers is a big way to do that. And talking to the area managers to see what kind of openings is a great way to go ahead and get into that. Another way that you can get into those venues is you can reach out to Shane and see if we have anything available in your area. I don't have that listing. Shane would have access to that. It might take him a day or two to find out specifically what they have open, but through network, we do have some places that have some gaps. But I think for quickness and really to get your name popular with the area managers, I would go through the area managers first. Okay, so that would really be more on the marketing side. So marketing rules would apply to all of those venues. Next, you have educational events, right? Now, remember, educational events are not necessarily where you get the sale at that moment, but educational events definitely lead into marketing activities. So, for example, the new rules with AHIP allow you to do an immediate scope of appointment. So if you host an educational event and it's over and a senior comes up and says, hey, you know what, I'd really like to work with you when you're done with this event. Well, that's great. You pack all your stuff up, you put it in the car, and you go ahead and sit down with that client right there, right? So let's talk about educational events, because these are where you can draw lots of seniors from different areas to at least hear about Medicare, maybe not a plan specific, but you'll talk about Medicare in general. Now, what I do with the educational events is, if you remember page 1, I talk about page 1. And that's the beauty of the 4-page system that I've created for you guys, is you can take a piece of that puzzle, the page 1, you can do a presentation on that. And at the end of that presentation, after you've said, these are your 3 different pathways, you can go prepaid through Medicare supplement and a drug coverage plan, or you can go through a Medicare Advantage with an HMO or a PPO. I handle all of those areas. I have access to plans in every one of those categories. So if you need anything and you don't have an agent, all you need is my name and number, and we can get you taken care of. Okay. So with that in mind, the educational events are very popular at senior centers. So I am not familiar with any area that does not have a senior center in your community. And what a senior center really does is they create activities and resources for seniors during the day. So what I have done is I've gone into senior centers and said, hey, maybe once a month, what I can do is come in and just do an educational event to talk about the changes in Medicare for next year. I'm not going to be pushing any plans. I'm not going to be selling anything per se, but what I want to do is come in and talk to your senior community about the changes for 2023. And I'll be a resource for them if they have any questions. So you schedule that, you schedule an hour event. You come in with a lot of times they'll have a TV or a projector that's already set up. You just need to bring your laptop in. You post up that page 1, and you just talk it through. So if you practice that page 1 and how that works and do that event, a lot of seniors will have questions for you afterwards. So one thing I do need to highlight to do things compliantly and not get in trouble with CMS is, once you're done with your presentation, if seniors want to talk to you, just let them know. That's no problem. Let me put my materials back in the car and close this event, and then I can talk to you. Okay. Make sure you close your educational event up, and then you can go ahead and start talking to them about plan specific information. If you do it during the event, you put yourself in jeopardy of turning that educational event into a marketing event. Okay. So that's just one thing to be cautious of. But once you do close that educational event, you're free to go ahead and start breaking out a scope of appointment and talking about any plan that is available in your area. So that's one really good resource that I find. Most senior centers that I have been to, and I've worked in 8 different states, they generally have on any given day from 30 to, I've seen as much as 150 people in that facility. So that's another great resource where you can go ahead and start building some relationships with the senior centers and their participants. Most of the seniors, although they take people from 55 and up, will be on Medicare, so or eligible for Medicare in one form or fashion. So I would definitely recommend working with senior centers. The other thing that I like to do with senior centers is I like to offer doing a birthday cake or a pizza party once a month, not just during open enrollment, but throughout the year, so that they become familiar with who I am. Doesn't take a lot of time. You're only there for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, but doing something like that so that the seniors become familiar with you. And of course, people like to talk to people who they're familiar with. So once you get your face there a few times, they'll start asking you questions. A lot of people don't want to be sold, so they may not be super friendly right up front, but the more time that you spend with them, the more they're going to see you as a friend and a resource. And especially if you're doing things outside of trying to sell the plans, if you're just doing some volunteer activities, they will definitely start working with you more and trust you, and you'll be able to get a lot of sales out of those senior centers. Just like senior centers, there are communities. I'm not sure if I spelled that right. But senior communities would be things like 55 and older housing communities, any places that have a mixture of seniors with that community. That can be the housing complexes or things of that nature. Normally they'll have some kind of clubhouse or meeting area or something that the seniors can congregate to. And so working with the event coordinator for those communities in the same fashion, hey, would you mind if I come in once a month and just talk about Medicare or the changes for next year, or if they have certain questions, I'd like to be a local resource for you. And that usually turns out very well. Any community that is open to that will generally have a pretty high population. And if you do it once a month, sometimes twice a month, depending on how big that community is, you can see large numbers of sales coming out of that in a very short period of time. So just like senior communities, communities that are low income are also a great resource. Now I say low income because if you are done with your Medicare certifications for the carriers, you probably realize that there are not just Medicare clients. There are Medicare clients, there are D-SNPs, the dual eligible, and there's the chronic, the C-SNPs that you can go and get plans for. So in the lower income communities, you generally find those types of clients that are eligible for both Medicare and Medicaid, or they have chronic illnesses and they're on disability, Social Security, which makes them eligible for Medicare. So lower income communities will be a great resource to find other clients that may be under 65. They may have some over 65, but definitely the under 65 will come from the lower income communities. And again, they'll have resources, especially if you go into a large community that is all networked out, like a housing project or something like that, where you can work with the management to come in and do seminars and just provide other services and become a local resource. Sometimes that's the best thing. If somebody's just moving in and they're eligible for Medicare and they don't know what to do, their housing manager or whatever that person is can have your name and your card to give to that new resident. Or if they have a educational board that's posted up, you can have your card or maybe even a short little snippet of the things that you can do to help them posted up on their community calendar or board or monthly newsletter that goes out, et cetera, et cetera. Other places that you can do educational events would be churches. A lot of people don't realize that, but you know, most churches are pretty open for you to come in maybe on a midweek service or on a day that's not necessarily a congregational day, and offer to host for the community a Medicare seminar. Now, if you work with the administration, whether that be the pastor or the office manager or whatever that title is, and tell them that you want to do that and broadcast that information out to the community, they'll be very open to that, because not only does that help the church show that they're trying to help the community, it also may influence people who are not part of that congregation to come and see the church, meet the pastor, meet some of the other members of the congregation. And then, of course, the church is hoping that they will grow their membership through that event. So a lot of times they're very open to letting you and even helping you do those kind of events. And they may even be as open as to provide some of the snack items for you. So that's a great resource to go to as well. I have had a lot of success in libraries, same concept. Most libraries have some kind of meeting room that you can use for your event. And some libraries will let you do it for free. Some will charge you a small fee, $20-$30 to rent that out for a couple of hours. But it's a great resource. Everybody knows where the library is in town. And so marketing for that, hey, this local library is going to sponsor an educational event to talk about the 2023 Medicare changes. Come in and take a look, or whatever. It's free to the public. So again, it's another resource where people, especially in the senior community, will see that they can come in and not feel like they're being sold anything. And you can get your name out there as a local expert and a resource for them to go to. And again, as you close those activities up, one of the main things that you can do is just say, hey, I am a local expert. You are more than welcome to call me. My business cards are right up here in front. You're welcome to take one, and I can help you either through phone or in person, whatever you need. And so, again, a no pressure sale way to get in front of people. And a lot of times those larger activities will bring you good numbers of clients. And same thing will go with places like AMVETS, American Legion, any of the places that are resources for military. And as you guys become more and more familiar with the plans in your area, you'll find that a lot of companies are starting to come out with products that are built specifically for veterans. It works with TRICARE, it works with CHAMP VA and other military insurances, where it doesn't necessarily take away from the CHAMP VA or TRICARE, but it adds benefits to what they already have, and it makes it less expensive. For example, one of the plans that I help people with in Alabama is specifically built for veterans, and it gives them a $50 rebate from their Part B premium right back into their Social Security check. So it's a very popular product. And if you go into AMVETS or American Legion or any of those types of areas and do a presentation, you can mention things like that. Or you might even want to say, hey guys, there's a new product that's been in the market very recently. I'm not sure if you're aware of. I'd like to do a presentation on that, and you can do a marketing event for those. And again, it'll be at no cost. A lot of times AMVETS will provide snacks or refreshments, and you just need to make sure that if you're doing a marketing event, that it falls within the guidelines. So make sure you communicate what can and cannot be served or available to the people during that time frame. Okay, so those are basically the events where you're trying to do presentations. Other ways that you can get people to start working with you is to work with the flyers. So if you're not familiar with yourfmo.com, I'd highly, I'm gonna put that into the chat here. I would highly recommend you going there and start looking at the marketing materials that are there. So with the marketing materials in yourfmo.com, you can go ahead. They're already CMS compliant. They have the areas that you can change, and you can go ahead and put your personal information in there. So once you go ahead and do that, you get your flyer set up. You can go into doctor's offices, whether it be primary care or specialty, and just ask the office staff if you can put that in the waiting room. Again, you're a local resource for them. You'd like to help their office, and just put a stack of flyers somewhere. A lot of times, if you bring in one of those, if you guys are familiar with the little clear stands that hold up the flyers, I would usually come in with one of those stands and a handful of flyers and say, hey, would you mind if I put this up in your waiting room? And then for future, what I would do is start saying, I'd like to start building a relationship with your office here, but I'd like to start by helping your clients. And then I would even go a step further and say, as I'm helping clients in the community, I'm probably going to be coming across patients that don't have primary care, or they don't have a doctor for your specialty. What plan specifically do you take so that when I refer clients to your office, I'm putting them in the plan that you guys would work with the best? And that really starts to open up something that we're going to start working with next year. These are first year activities. Next year activities, we're going to talk about how to build foundational relationships with doctors' offices that will bring you continuous leads. So one of the things that I would like to highlight in today's training is putting the flyers in the doctor's offices, but not just dropping them off. Start opening communication with the office manager, one, to make sure that you have the right plans that they work with, and get an idea of what plans they like and what plans they don't like, because you'll find that there are plans that they favor and plans that they hate. So open that communication with them and start that now. Get some business through open enrollment this year, but it's going to open up a communication for an even better marketing strategy that we'll focus on after we get through open enrollment. Same thing with urgent care centers and ER. Now, you won't have the same conversations with them because they're very busy most of the time. So I would ask just to put, either flyers or business cards in those areas. And as people are there waiting, because if you go to the ER, I don't know about your areas, but where I'm at, I can see people waiting in an ER anywhere from 3 to 8 hours before they're seen. So if you put it in an area where they can see it, maybe not just a business card, but a small write-up of all the things that you can do to help people, a lot of times that'll be something that they pick up because they're bored. And wow, hey, look, this guy's or this gal's a resource for Medicare. He handles Medicare Advantage, he handles supplements, he does all kinds of stuff. So well, just give him a call, or let me take this with me, right? So urgent care and ER waiting areas are another great place to go ahead and put those things. Other areas that you may want to consider is if your town or where you live has different venues that has a special senior day. Now that might be a restaurant, like for example, Perkins will have after 4 or Sunday senior specials, right? Work with the restaurants that do senior specials, or if there's a bingo hall that does something specific for seniors, or a lot of seniors just go to bingo regardless. Just putting your information there, or if they have some kind of community board, just putting some kind of write-up up in those community boards. So again, working with other areas that have already set up to draw seniors in is a great way to go ahead and put some of your information there. And again, you can go into yourfmo.com and find the right type of material that you want to put in there. Just put your name and your contact information and print a few of those out and pop them up in there. Now, I'll also say this, while we're talking about your FMO materials, a lot of the carriers will also have access to materials for their plan specifics that you can generate and make your own personal marketing material for. So for example, let's say United Healthcare, you wanted to market United Healthcare specifically to a certain population. You can go into their website and make your marketing material. And then, as I mentioned on the front side, the area managers, if you start creating a good relationship with them, they may even print you out 500 or 1,000 copies of a flyer because you're being aggressively or you're working aggressively in the community to try to get the name out. So they see your mentality and they see how hard you're working, they may want to go ahead and pay for you to get those copies, or they might say, hey, go ahead and bring that in here. Let me print out 500 and you can go ahead and start shuffling those out, right? So again, that the community relationships, especially with the area managers, with the carriers, can help make these things no cost activities for you. Social media, big area, right? I think everybody in the world that is on Medicare probably either has a Facebook or has a family member that has a Facebook, right? And that's not even including Twitter and all the other social media platforms that are out there. But there's nothing wrong with putting information out on social media, right? So just make sure that it is compliant. You don't want to talk about marketing specifics, but you can put out certain things about Medicare, right? So for example, you could create a meme, or you can create just a little pocket of information that says something like Medicare 2023, new changes, ask me for details, and post it and share with everyone inside of your Facebook, right? Now, a lot of your friends might not be on Medicare, but their family members may be, and they may share it with their family members. What I did when I had my own business is I created a Facebook page for that business, and I just asked people to start sharing it and sharing it and sharing it. And then every week I would post a new piece of information on that platform, and it would just be a little blurb about one thing or another. Diabetic medicine, how do you get it on Medicare? Ask for details, or something like that. Something that's educational, but it doesn't go into any one plan specific. And it always points back to making a comment or reaching out to the agent. So those can be very popular ways to get more business, because it's a social media platform and it can push out so far so fast. So take advantage of those things. And then the last thing that I would recommend on the no cost side is volunteer. Volunteer opportunities are always going to be there at senior centers, at soup kitchens, and places of that nature. And again, like I mentioned when I was talking about the senior centers on the educational events, the more that people recognize you as a resource, not just a salesperson, but somebody who is part of the community, willing to do what it takes to help them, they will want to sit down with you and talk about their personal situation and what plan might be the best situation for them. So I highly recommend, if you have free time and you can spend an hour a week or an hour a month or whatever free time you have, go ahead and ask these places if you can volunteer and spend some time there. It is not abnormal for you to go through an hour of handing out food to low-income community. For some of those people who are on Medicare, because you can wear a little "ask me about Medicare" pin while you're doing it, for them to take you off to the side and say, hey, I've been having issues with my plan. Is there a time that you and I can sit down, or I can call you and we can figure out how to fix my situation, right? So again, volunteer opportunities are a really big way to help to grow your business in a short amount of time. Now, other activities, let's see if I can, there we go. And now some of these might have costs, but are also good ways to start getting a nice kickoff to getting Medicare clients very quickly. One of the things, believe it or not, that is very popular is getting a booth at a flea market. Now, I wouldn't have believed it until I started doing it myself. But if you get into a flea market, or if you get into one of the community fairs that have booths, it draws a huge crowd a lot of times. And especially if it's something that runs on on a time frame that's very scheduled, you'll find that a lot of seniors will come through there, or a lot of people who are helping seniors come through those areas. And you can rent a flea market booth for, I don't know, $20 to $50 for that event. It's a very low cost to have access to people. And so you just have a little booth, you put up Medicare information sign on the top, and then you just sit there. You can put out little booklets for every plan that you represent. You can have little flyers and brochures and a huge stack of your business cards, and you can sit there. Now, what's cool about a flea market is you don't have to register that with any of the companies, because it's just a booth. And then if anybody wants to talk about something, you can keep it educational, or you can have them sign a scope of appointment right there and go through a presentation and get a sale right there. So a flea market booth is very nice because it opens up the possibility for any and every kind of activity for you to have. And it's a very low cost. So that's another thing that I highly recommend, especially if you're in an area that has an indoor flea market, or you live in an area where it's fairly warm, so that you can go ahead and have those marketing activities and access to large amounts of people. Agent hosted educational and marketing events. Now, you don't necessarily have to go through any one particular carrier. You can host your own events, right? You can go ahead and post a newspaper ad, or you can throw out some kind of circular, or as we talked about with the senior communities, you can have it posted into their calendar. But you can have your own events at whatever venue you want, right? If you do not do a marketing event, if you're just doing an educational event, you don't need anybody's permission for that. You can just go ahead and do it. But you do have to pay for the venue, right? Unless you have your own venue that has no cost. So I put this into other activities because a lot of times what I will do is I'll rent out the conference room to, let's say, a Hilton or a Marriott or something that can fit a good number of people. And then I'll start making my own flyers for that event and posting it out through the community. I'll post it on social media. I'll just get the word out, and then whoever comes in, I'll do an educational event, which again is just going over page 1. And then at the end of that, having your information available, your business cards. You might have flyers for general information about different plans that you offer. And again, at the end of that event, if it's educational, you pack your stuff up, and then anybody who wants to learn about something specific, you can go ahead and start doing a Medicare presentation for that specific plan by individual. What you can also do if you're doing this by yourself is you can back-to-back seminar. So what I mean by that is if you know that the doctors in that community prefer a specific plan, let's say that United is very popular within your community, you can go ahead and do an educational event at 1:00 p.m. and then you can start a United Healthcare event at 2 p.m. So you finish your educational event, you pack all that stuff up, and then at 2:00 you'll let everybody know that a marketing event will start at 2 p.m. Well, the people that were there at 1 are quite possibly going to stay for 2:00. So you can go ahead and go right back to back. Just make sure that when you're doing your flyers, you are doing 2 different flyers, right? You're doing an educational event flyer, starts at 1 p.m. and then stapled with that or in a separate piece of paper, you have a marketing event for a specific carrier the next hour. And if you rent out the venue for, let's say, 4 hours, you have plenty of time to go ahead and do both of those and get enrollments for that marketing event you're doing. You can also let people know that after that marketing event, if they're interested in other company products, you will be available for the next hour or so to talk to them about their specific situation. So again, you can do your own activities that you control a little bit better, but there's probably going to be a little bit of cost to it because you're going to be responsible for the venue and any snacks or beverages that you're going to supply. And then one of the other things that I really like to do is you may find practices in your community. This is very popular in Florida. I would think that any state that has a large Medicare population will have the same type of situation, but you'll find facilities that are risk-based. Now, I know a lot of you probably don't understand that yet, and we will get into that next year after open enrollment, when we have more time to focus on this. But what risk-based basically means is there's a common idea between the doctor practices that they want Medicare Advantage, especially HMO products within their practice. This will make more sense to talk about how they get paid next year, but just for now, they really like HMOs. Okay. And so what I like to do with companies like that have 4 or 5 different offices that are the same thing. I'll try to give you some names that you may be familiar with. Conviva, DaVita, Family Care Partners, Family Medical Centers, that are all named the same thing within the same community. They have 4 or 5 different doctors' offices or more, Complete Health, etc. They will really like risk-based plans. So they may have their own situation where they do meet and greets with the community. They might do a wine and cheese, or they might have something already set up, and they want agents to come in because a lot of those people will not be on the right types of plans to have them have services in their practice. So they use the agents to help convert those patients into plans that they accept. This is very popular in the Orlando and Tampa area. Outside of that, I would have to look, but I know Alabama and Florida for sure have these type of practices that you can go in, start working with them, and they want you to be there and host educational events, marketing events, or just be there as a resource for, yes, the Villages is good. You can be there to help them to convert into the plans that will allow them to become part of their practice. So meet and greets are a great way to do that. And again, working with different doctor practices that are larger, that have a central point, will be a great place to do that. Other activities. So let's talk about the promos that we have going on. I know one of the things that we can do is we can, through network, we can have you become part of an incoming call that's transferred right to you. And again, you know, keeping in mind, like Glenn and I were talking, if you guys happen to catch part of that conversation before we started this morning, you just have to make sure you follow the phone script. So what you'll want to do is get with Shane. You can yourself as part of one of the people that gets a direct referral to a person when they call in, and then you'll have to follow the phone script and just use the portal, because that will record your conversation with them, which is required by CMS. You can also do things like I do, which is I went out and I got a my own platform. I use Grasshopper, and I do that because I have multiple agents that work underneath me. So what Grasshopper will do is you can create an 800 number, and depending on the plan that you get, you can go ahead and distribute incoming calls so that they can be live to all the agents in your downline. So if you already are an agency yourself and you have a downline, you can have 1-800 number for many different areas. I have the same 800 number for 8 different states. And what I'm able to do is separate my call center per se to have Florida agents, Alabama agents, Illinois agents. So when somebody calls in, they just push the state that they're in, and that call simultaneously rings to all of my Florida agents for that person who wants to talk to Florida. It simultaneously rings to all the Illinois agents that that Illinois patient is calling from. So you could do something like that as well. If you don't want to go through network, you can create your own incoming call. So being an incoming call agent is also a great option to start getting those Medicare clients. And then also, Gabriel was talking about that $1,000 to hurry up and get your certs and everything done. You can use that toward mailers. If you want to target a specific population or a certain area, you can go ahead and create your own mailer, just making sure that it's CMS compliant, right? And again, your FMO is a great resource for that. Get your $1,000 worth of mailers and send it out to the population. Just make sure that you have your phone number available on that. And then again, you can go ahead and either set home appointments for those, or you can go ahead and use a phone script and record that call and go ahead and make sales through that as well. All right. Some suggestions that I have for you guys. Now, as you reach out to the area managers for the different carriers, the Uniteds, the Humanas, et cetera, they have promotional items to give away to your potential clients, right? Now, it might be, let's see, what are some of the things that they like to give away? They like to give away little bags. They're like the little shopping bags. They have pins. They have stress balls. A lot of times they'll have other more expensive things. I have seen fleece blankets, backpacks, all kinds of things. Battery, the power things for your phone that you plug in, that's like an external battery. They have all kinds of things that they have as promotional items to give away for free to the clients. So as you talk to your local area manager for those plans, ask them for some of those promotional items. You can use those for either a market seminar or just have them available when you're doing an educational event. So for example, if you do an educational event and you've got promotional items from all the carriers, you can give those away. Just give them away during the presentation, right? You're not talking about their plan specific information, but they're freebies to give away. And everybody likes free stuff. So one suggestion I do have is go get those free items from the carriers. I would also, as you're going through the community, start building your relationships with the doctor's offices, with the churches, with any of the venues that can build large presence of seniors for you at any given time. I would highlight the relationship with the doctor's offices. There's nothing wrong with you coming in with a box of donuts for the staff and just saying, good morning, this is for you guys. I really appreciate you guys allowing me to put my business cards in your office or my flyer in your office. This is just a thank you to you guys. Now, it might cost you 10 or 12 bucks to get a box of donuts, but the staff will start to remember who you are. And, you know, just like how you train a dog, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say this in a negative way, but as you train the staff that you're friendly and you're helpful, they will start wanting to refer patients to you. So for example, I have many doctor's offices that I go into and I say, hey, how you guys doing? Hey, Carl, you know, I came across this patient that, man, they had this really weird situation, and I gave them your phone number because I know you want to help. I appreciate that. As a matter of fact, I helped them last week. So they will go ahead and give out your information as a resource to help their clients. And the more that you can build that relationship, especially in the doctor's offices, that will be key. Now, that will be key for having that kind of relationship, but we're going to talk later on about building a even greater relationship with that practice. So as you're just starting to build these relationships now, I would recommend bringing in a little bit of candy or a box of donuts, maybe a box of Joe or whatever coffee from a local vendor, something just to kind of show your appreciation, but more so to get the staff to recognize who you are and kind of be excited when you come to their practice. Other things that I have done is like working with the senior centers is hosting a pool tournament. You can go out, you can get some pretty inexpensive trophies made for first, second, and third place to do at a senior community, right? For example, in Jacksonville, Florida, there are 4 senior centers that all are part of the Clay County Council for Seniors. Once a year, I was hosting a pool tournament for those 4 facilities to all come to one location. I myself and another agent would be the judges or the referees for the tournament. And then we would give a first, second, and third place trophy for the winners of the pool tournaments. The senior centers love it because it's an event that's special. They don't really have to do anything except for just make sure that you guys are being safe with their people and you have access to a lot of seniors. So what does it cost you? Well, it might cost you $100 in trophies and then maybe another $50 in snacks. But again, people like it when they feel like you're not just there to sell them and you're friendly. And you can have little sidebar conversations here, there, and everywhere, and just making sure that you're wearing something that indicates that you are a resource for people to talk to them about Medicare. And of course, you're going to have business cards in your pocket. So if they want to talk to you after or on another day, you just give them your business card and let them know that you are there to help them with any of their Medicare needs. Same thing goes with bingo games or any of the other games that usually require some kind of assistance for referee or just a facilitator to host or to volunteer to do those things. Again, you're not going to be doing any marketing per se during that event, but just being a familiar face and explaining that you are an educational or a resource for people on Medicare will go a long way. Another idea that I find is very useful is volunteering for things like toy drives, right? When they do the distribution for any of the large events like Toys for Tots or things like that that are done in the low income communities, seniors might not be there, but you'll probably find that grandma came with the little babies to come pick up their toys. Or you find that this low income individual who has a disability is asking you about Medicare because you're wearing, ask me about Medicare pin, right? So doing things like that in a volunteer capacity is a great idea. Finding out who's hosting it, where those events are, and asking if you can be part of that will go a long way. And then the last suggestion that I would have is something like a food pantry, finding out where the lower income areas are. A lot of times they're at churches or they're at senior centers or they're at some kind of facility that draws that crowd. They're already getting those people that come there on a weekly basis. So being part of that during that hour or hour and a half that they have that distribution long way. And again, the more familiar your face is, the more people are going to trust you, and they'll just naturally start asking you questions as long as they can identify that you help people with Medicare and Medicare situations. Okay, so that's going to wrap up my strategies for getting more face-to-face with Medicare individuals. I will probably, like I was telling Glenn at the beginning of this, I will probably work with Mary and Shane to talk more about the phone side of things. Now I wanted to open this up if you got any questions about any of the activities that I talked about today.
Hey, Carl.
Hey, Glenn.
Great presentation, man. Thank you. Lots of really, really good ideas. Can you touch on, I'll call it low hanging fruit, friends and family who may already be in the system, and the legalities of whether or not, or to what extent we can approach them about our now being in the business and being available to be their agent.
Wow, that's a loaded potato right there, huh? Okay. Let me say this. I don't know what I just did here. Okay. Sorry, my computer's doing weird things. Okay. So low hanging fruit. Let's talk about the family for a second. Family should never be an issue. And again, you probably are going to address it like you would address it with anybody else. When you talk to family, you could just say, hey, look, I'm working with Medicare now. Do you ever want me to sit down and talk to you about your situation? Just let me know. Just give me a call, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's family talk, right? Now, when you're talking about friends, that kind of gets into a gray area, right? But if you address it the same way, there's nothing wrong with it, right? If you already have an established relationship with somebody, and you were just letting them know about your new capabilities, there's nothing wrong with that. Now, if you say, hey, I want to show you this plan that I think is the best thing out there, now you're getting into some pretty rough waters, right? Because you're stretching the coverage of your friendship. But again, if you start saying, hey, I got some cool stuff I came across with my Medicare, I don't know if you want to hear about it or not, but what I'm doing is I'm going to make some flyers out to educate the community on it. If you want to know about it, let me know. But or you can come to the event itself. But we're friends. If you ever want me, just sit down, just let me know. Things like that will be okay, right? But if you go too much further than that, you're putting yourself in rough waters with CMS. Okay. Hopefully, Glenn, that answers your question.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, so let me go through some of these questions. I appreciate you guys putting that in the chat, and I've been trying to do better about keeping this chat open while I'm doing my presentation so I can see what questions you guys have. So Scott says, who can I talk about appointment with your group? Scott, can you jump on here for just a second, explain what you're asking about?
I mean, getting appointed, moving my contracts over.
Okay, Shane Ramage is the person who will help you get through that. Are you already set up with LBA?
I am for ERC, not for Medicare.
Okay, so talk to your upline about getting a link for Legacy Benefit Alliance. And then once you get registered with LBA, who is part of Better, right? Then you can reach out to Shane Ramage, and Shane will go ahead and get you contracted with the different carriers. And then you'll just follow this same cycle. You work with me for training, and Shane and Mary will help you with all your contracts.
I'm already contracted with the carriers. I need to talk to someone to see if I want to make that switch. I hear about software, but I haven't seen it. I need more detail to know if I want to make the change.
Gotcha. Okay. So, why don't we do this? Why don't you go ahead and give me a call, maybe Friday afternoon? No. Yeah, Friday afternoon.
Okay,
I'm putting my number in the chat here. Give me a call Friday afternoon. I'll go over some of that with you. I'm gonna also talk to you about a presentation that was already done so you can see the platform software that will be in the LBA website. So what I would recommend for you specifically is go ahead and get registered with the LBA platform so you can see the channel. And in the channel chat, I post all the recorded meetings, like this one will be up there tomorrow. There's
Mhm.
already a recorded session that talks about the platform. So you can see the platform. And then you and I can talk specifically about some of the other areas that you're probably interested in. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Magaline. Hopefully I said that right. May I get the replay of this presentation sent to that email? I am not going to do that, but what I will do is all these recordings will be in the LBA channel. So you can go in there and you can access this. I believe that you could probably record it. But I will also put this presentation, not with the audio, but the PowerPoint will be inside of the LBA resources. So just like the flow chart and the 1 through 4 pages are inside of that business building platform where the resources are, this PowerPoint presentation will also be there starting tomorrow. Okay, Henry Lee says, what's the best way to observe presentations if I'm the only one in my office who is licensed? Great question. So, Henry, do you have a second to speak with me
Yep.
here?
I'm here.
Okay, so are you going to be working in the community, or are you going to be working in a call center, or what's your situation?
I am very much more person oriented. I like talking to people in person. That's just kind of like how I do best. Obviously, yeah, cold calling is an option, or not cold calling, obviously, because I have to reach out. But I'm just much better at doing things in person, but I'm also rather new at this. And as far as I know, there's no one else in my regional area with whom I'm affiliated with who is licensed in doing this.
Okay, so let me say this. When you start working with the agency managers for, let's say, United or Humana or whatever,
Mhm.
they don't care who you're affiliated with. Now, you might work with somebody from another organization and do a seminar with them, right?
Okay.
And they may lead it, and you just might be the support person. You might be the person that's putting applications in front of everybody's seat. You might be the person who's clicking the clicker. They might have you go up there and say, hey, my name is Henry, and I just started working with Medicare, and I decided to work with this company because they have one of the best products in the area. I am
Got it.
here in a learning capacity, but I am a licensed agent and I can help you with whatever you need. Carl is going to be our presenter today. I am here as a resource, et cetera, et cetera. And that's kind of how you start to see how the presentations are done.
Okay.
And
Cool.
then as you start going through, and again, I would kind of go back and rewatch some of the videos that we've already recorded. If you start going back and watching the page 1 specifically, that's
Okay.
why I separated that one. Get used to being able to present that. And then you can start hosting your own, right?
Okay.
That
So
would be the
so I
thing that
can have like a primary person be provided from the providers. All right, I can see if there's
from the
someone available.
carriers, right? Yeah, you can
carriers.
always start out as a secondary, but honestly, to be honest with you, Henry, so when you do a carrier sponsored presentation,
Mhm.
you're pretty much going verbatim the from the presentation that they already have created. And
Okay.
sometimes some of the carriers will just have a video. So what they want you to do is say, hi, my name is Carl. I am a licensed agent in these states or in this area. What my function is to work with this company and others, to work with people to find out a great solution for their Medicare coverage. Today, we're going to talk about Humana and what great products they have. And we have a video to go over that presentation. My function after the presentation will be to work with you if you have any questions specifically about the product, or to help you if you would like to sign up.
Cool. Okay.
Click
Awesome.
the button and let the music play. And then when you're done, say, okay, folks, here's my business card for any of you who are, in a rush to get out of here. You're welcome to call me at any time. For those of you who would like to sign up, you have a application in front of you. And those of you that have questions, I'll sit down with you one-on-one and we'll talk it out. And that pretty much is how most of the seminars will work when they're carrier sponsored.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure, absolutely. Okay, what other questions do we have?
Carl.
Yes.
Yeah, this is John.
John.
When you're talking about earlier, when you're, your inner circle, which is called your family,
Sure.
I think the best approach I would say, like you were saying, is, I'm in here doing this, and I want to be able to be helpful for the family. But you don't want to, like you said before, I don't think you want to say, well, this thing is like the cat's meow type thing. You want to say, hey, look, there's several options out here. And, when this time comes again next year, we can set some time down and we can go through all this and see what best works for you. Like, for example, like my brother-in-law and sister, they're already at 65. So they're most likely in something and they may continue with it. Or they may want to, hey, look, there's some other ones out there. You may want to look at to see what best fits their health needs at that time. So it's kind of like what I think of with family is, hey, look, I'm here for you as a resource to kind of help you to kind of, if there's something that you need to change with, I'll be that resource for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And John, you bring up a great point. Ironically, one of the best ways that I get referrals is when I do not sign somebody up for a plan. So as you're talking to family and friends, I like to share my experiences. Like, hey, I just met with this guy and we were going over this plan. I won't mention the name, but it's a great plan. And, I sat there with an hour for him and we found out that he was on the right plan. And you know what I did? I shook his hand. I said, you know what? I think you making that decision was the great choice, right? For this year, but that may change. So I gave him my business card and I said, you know what? As your situation changes, or if there are other products, which things always change every year, let's get together and just review again. And if you're on the right plan, you're going to stay right there. And if you're better served on something else, can help you with that. One thing that I will ask you though is if you have some other that are interested in their Medicare, here's a few of my cards, just let me know. Now, when you do something like that and you don't try to force them into another plan, they know that you have their best interest in mind. And what they're going to do is they're going to say, hey, this guy, he didn't even sign me up on another plan. He just reviewed my benefits and said, you know what, you're in the right place. Stay right there. Right.
That's the best thing that you can do. Goodwill, pro bono, because that can still reap benefits across. Because like you said, you're not, the whole thing about this is you don't want to act like a salesman.
No, absolutely. Your job is to walk alongside them. Right?
Exactly.
Your job is just to say, hey, these are your options. I can do any of the options, but if you're in the right place, I want to keep you there. If you were somewhere else, this is where I would have put you, but you're already there, so I don't want to do anything with you. Now, next year, your needs may change. You know, you might be perfectly healthy this year and have something happen this year, and you need to go somewhere else next year, or the plan itself changes and it's not the best thing for you anymore, or a new plan comes out, or other plan changes their benefits, and that plan is better for you. That's what I'm going to be here for you going forward. I might not be your agent right now, but when I want to act like your agent going forward and be that resource for you. So now let's set up for every year just to do a review, but I do ask that you hand my card out. Now, if you make it that simple, I promise you, you will get referrals. I get more referrals for the people that I didn't help than I do with the ones that I do help. And that is a fact.
That Carl that's the way, I mean, that's the way I would see it is because for years when I was around as a child, and my dad would always, I grew up on the farms, and we saw these insurance salesmen or people coming out and or whoever coming out to the farm. My dad would get the shotgun out and would say, nope, sorry, not going to even want to entertain it. But
Right.
you know, I think the very essence of what we're conversation back and forth here for everybody else is you want to be friendly, you want to be supportive, you want to be in their shoes, you want to be for them, and you want to be supportive. And if, like you said, if they're in the right decision, fine. But like you said, you never know. Conditions are never fixed. They're always variable and they're always fluid. And you never know when a plan could be going on for 3-4 years, and that fourth year it's dropped and they got to go to something else. Oh, hey, here's John's car. Let me call him and we'll set up a thing to go through it and say which one I got to get into.
Right. Yeah. So there's a couple caveats with that too. So being perfectly fluid and honest, there's a lot of Medicare plans that are very, very similar, right? So if you do a great job building your rapport, which is the primary thing that you need to do in any face-to-face communication with a senior or whoever's on Medicare, then they just might want you to be the agent. So they might be on Humana and United has a plan that's almost identical. And they say, you know what? I really love my Humana, but I really want John to be my agent. So let's go ahead and move over to United Healthcare. Right. And that's great. Right. So that's one of the things that can happen. The other thing, like I said, you'll get plenty of referrals, but they might also say, and I know this question was addressed earlier by a couple of people in earlier trainings. What if they're on a plan? It's not the best for them to move, but they want you to be their agent. Well, on a case-by-case basis, sometimes, and again, I have to emphasize, sometimes you can still become their agent of record through them requesting that through the carrier. I don't like to make that a standard practice because realistically, there is normally a plan that's so similar that you can move them to. So why I emphasize that is your biggest thing that you need to make sure happens is you build that relationship with the client, right? That is the key to Medicare sales. It's not the products you sell, because to be honest with you, there's so many that are out there that there's always a similar product to what they already have. You're selling yourself. You're not selling the product, right? And to be honest with you, I don't sell anything. I advise people and I put them in something that they want to be in. So I never tell anybody that I sell Medicare. I help people get into the plans that they want to get into. And in my area, to be honest with you, there's usually not a cost. So how can you sell anything that doesn't have cost? Right?
And Carl, yeah, I think the one thing that you're tapping into is verbiage, the right words that you say at the right time. No, I'm not here selling. I'm advising you. I'm educating you. I'm providing you. Because when you say the certain words, there's certain buzzwords that are key, that are very, very ease for people to, like you said, building that relationship. So that might be something in the future, you know, you might want to, when they have the scripts, making sure that that language that's in there that makes it look like you're not selling, you're there, like I said, I'm advising, I'm providing information, you know, things like that.
Right. Well, and I'll say there's two different sales, right? There's phone sales, which on the telephone sales, you now CMS requires it to be recorded, and it requires certain things that you have to say. So the phone script probably will not change too much. I mean, there's the areas where you can kind of say what you want to say, but anything, and I'll post the script inside of the LBA resources sometime tomorrow. But the areas that are in red are required by CMS. So you can't vary from that, but the areas that are in blue, you can manipulate the way you want to. But yeah, the overall idea, to be honest with you, is to build in any face-to-face encounter with seniors, your goal is to build the rapport. You want to become their friend. You want to become their agent for life. And sometimes that means not doing anything with them. And sometimes that means switching their plan. But the idea that you want to give to the client is, I want to be the person that you come to with any of your Medicare needs, whether that be a question, whether that be moving to another plan, whether that be getting help or advice because your doctor is not working well with your plan or whatever, right? I want to be that person that you call. When you think Medicare, you think Carl. And that's the goal for working face to face. Now on the phone, because it's scripted, it's a little different. But after that first phone call, if you sign them up on a plan, you become an agent of record. And again, we're running a little bit over today, so I won't touch on it too much. But I'm going to have a training that is going to be, even especially for people who have worked in the industry, in the Medicare industry before, it's going to blow your mind. I'm going to teach you how powerful becoming an agent of record is. And what that means is you are the person that has signed that client up on a contract, and what that means specifically. I'll give you a little story and then I'll go ahead and close up this training since we're already 20 minutes past. But this week was a funny week for me. I got a call from one of my clients about 2 weeks ago and said, "Hey, Carl, I wanted to look over my benefits. I'm not super happy with the plan I'm on this year. They went through some changes and I think I'm probably going to need to change. So if you could, why don't we get together?" So I call him back and I said, "Okay, great. You live 3 hours from me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some time on the 20th of October and I'm going to come into your area and I'll work with a few folks and we'll get together." Well, on Monday morning, 2 days ago, I got a phone call and he says to me, which I didn't answer the call, went to voicemail. I got a voicemail that says, "Hey, this guy from Medicare came to my house and signed me up on this plan, so I guess we don't need to meet." Well, I was, well, of course, a little bit upset, not because I lost a client, but more because there's some Yahoo out there trying to sell Medicare and he's doing it the wrong way, right? Because if you caught what I said, he's doing marketing in complete violation of CMS rules. One, he doesn't work for Medicare, and two, you can't go door knocking if you're doing Medicare Advantage. So unfortunately for this agent, he's going to get a formal complaint from two people, myself and my client, and he's going to lose the sale that he tried to get, because now we have an appointment on Thursday because I did call him back and I told him my concerns about him working with somebody who's not following CMS rules. So that was an unfortunate event for that agent. But see, what I did is I built such a strong relationship with my client that I can go back and salvage my sale that somebody tried to take from me. So again, I can't emphasize enough, building that relationship with your client is key with Medicare, because you can always salvage your clients if you build the right relationship with them. So to touch on what that means for telephonic sales is as you close up your phone call, let them know that you're going to follow up with them in 2 weeks or 3 weeks after they have received their materials from the carrier. Okay, that will be the first thing that you do to start building that rapport. Okay, I'm going to hold another training probably might be 2 or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, because the next couple weeks I'm going to dedicate to ACA. But I'm going to do a couple of trainings on the power of being the agent of record and how to really solidify that with follow-up actions after the sale or after the encounter, because you don't necessarily need a sale to be able to follow up with the client as long as the client gives you permission to do that. Okay. So with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. We're almost 30 minutes past our time, so that's a very long video for people to watch. So I'm going to close this up. If you have any specific questions, again, my number is up in the chat there. I'm going to go ahead and put my email up there as well. If you have any specific questions, please reach out to me. I am really good about getting back to people within 24 hours. And besides that, I hope you guys have a great enrollment system. Session from now until December 7th and beyond. And we're going to get in some really deep training in not too long a time from now, but I'm not going to push the deep stuff until we get into January, because I want you to focus right now on trying to get out in some of these areas and getting some clients. Then we'll talk about retention and even further, one of our trainings will be on how to get doctor practices to want to work with you. So with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and say thank you for stopping on the call today. This recording, along with the presentation and some other documents, will start popping up on the Legacy Benefit Alliance website, the portal, not the Better portal, the LBA portal, starting tomorrow. So thanks, everybody. I hope you had a great time. We will see you next time.